Hi there. Today I wanted to show you how to set up Kubuntu 18.04. This is a minimal install, and of course it's configured the way I like it. And I'll just begin with what the minimal install comes with, as opposed to the package. With the minimal install, you're getting GWinView, Ocular, and Scanlight. So I've added GIMP and LibreOffice Draw. Under Internet, you get Firefox. I added Chromium, Opera, and QBitTorrent. Under Multimedia, you get K3B, Pulse Audio, VLC. And I've added Dead Beef as my music player, MPV Media Player as my video player. And I've installed simple screen recorders so you can see and hear my video. Under Office, I installed a partial LibreOffice, beginning with Libreoffice Writer, and I think it automatically installed the math and the common files. Then with a second install, I added Impress, which is for presentation, which also installed Draw. It comes with Ocular, as I think I already mentioned. I added GNOME Disk utility for a few reasons. It's always good to have, for a number of reasons actually. And I'll click on it and show you what it looks like. Basically, this is what it looks like. It'll immediately show your hard drive with the partitions, the way they're laid out on the hard drive. And the magic of GNOME Disk utility, or Disk utility, is the little hamburger menu. If you click on it, and you'll notice you can format a USB disk, and essentially you can also restore the disk image, or burn your ISO with restore disk image. And what's interesting here is you can do a self-testing of your hard drive. And what's probably the most important little tweak is under drive settings. You have the ability to write cache, and I already have it engaged. So if you click on the write cache tab, you would just enable it. It would already have been disabled. You would enable it. I think you have to click the bar, click OK, and it should increase a little bit your performance of the hard drive. There is a bit of a warning down here, but overall I think it's minimal compared to what it helps in the long run. So you can Google the information to find out whether it's something you want to enable, but I always do, and I've never had issues. And I've been using this for quite a while, so I'll move on here to what else? Okay, under settings, I mentioned disk. It comes, oh no, the Java was installed with LibreOffice. I added BleachBit to clean my files. It does come with Discover. Of course, it comes with Dolphin, your info center. As I mentioned, K3B. It comes with the partition manager, console, K-sysguard. All of the rest here, Muon, is all part of this minimal install. Under utilities, you get Arc, Kate, Kcalc. I installed KeePassX for password management. I installed Plank. Spectacle is your what do you call it, desktop. It'll take a snapshot of whatever you see on the screen. So that comes with the minimal install. And then of course you have your power session here. So excuse me. Basically that's what you get with your minimal install. I'm just going to try to move on here quickly because there's so much to cover. When you install Kubuntu, it's it does so many things in terms of configuration, but you have to know how to do that. And basically, this is what I'm trying to show you, is that a couple of the little things that I do to get me where I want to be with Kubuntu. So I always prefer my panel on the left. I'll just briefly show you how to move the panel. Initially it was on the bottom. If you right click on the panel, unlock widgets, that's the key. Then you go to the hamburger menu, you click on that. Then you have the ability to, you have screen edge and width. If you, width obviously alters the width of the panel. And then edge is what allows you to move it. Now I'm moving it out, and I can move it up. I can move it to the bottom, but I'm going to put it back right where I was. And I'll leave it to the way, kind of the way I had it there. Then you can just close it out with the X, or just click onto the desktop, and you're done like that. And I had to reconfigure these items. They were up at the top. I wanted them down at the bottom. I can briefly show you that. Once you have this unlocked, if you hover over the item, you'll notice you'll have this little star hovered over the item. You just click on that and drag it and push it where you want. The other part of this is that you see these little arrows. This allows you to shrink the panel down to midway, wherever you want the panel, but you've got these little arrows here, and you've also got one in the far corner down here. So be aware that, let me see if I can push it up. Okay, looks like it might be locked there, but these should come down. Oh, there you go. See, these come down like this. If you want to push them up, you got to get both of them. There's one on the right, one on the left, and I'm just going to put it back the way it was. What else can I show you here? Also under more settings, if you'll notice, its panel alignment is at the bottom. I can put it to the center. You can align it to the top. You can auto hide it. I want this always visible. So some of the other options are in here. Anyway, let me close that out. What I installed was Plank, as I mentioned. So the reason I installed Plank, it just has a few other little features that I don't have on the traditional panel. And you can install Latte Dock. That's a newer feature of Plasma or KDE or Kubuntu. And I didn't want to fuss with it because there's a lot of settings to learn in that. And I believe a new version of it is coming out soon. Anyway, I just wanted to stick with something rather simplistic or easier to configure, and Plank met my needs. And it doesn't use a lot of resources. It might actually use less than Latte. I'm not sure about that. And the only problem with Plank here is that I can only auto hide it or leave it visible at all times. And it may have to do with the compositor. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's the minimal install. I don't know. I'm not a whiz in Kubuntu or Ubuntu, but I know enough to tinker with this stuff. So under preferences, I'll just show you. Under behavior, it's on auto hide, but if I try to use dodge, any of these others, even IntelliHide, none of them work other than auto hide. So it's either visible at all times or hidden until needed. So I have it on auto hide. That's where it is. I think I left pretty much everything the same, just default. I added a few docklets to the Plank, Clippy, desktop. The trash I've left up here. And I think I also put it in the panel off to the far right, which I'll show you in a second. So there's Plank as auto hide. This panel is auto hide also. And when you add a panel, let me click on the hamburger down here. Wait a minute, let's see. Is it right click on it? Let me try to remember here. Panel options. So when you add a panel, you can add an application menu panel, a default panel, empty panel, Kubuntu default panel. You'll have to experiment with this. I usually use an empty panel, and then you can add your stuff. But if you play with any of these, you can always delete the panel. And in doing that, I guess, let's see, right click, panels. There's a way to delete it, but at the moment I'm not sure, but you can Google it. Nothing is that hard to restore or delete, at least, especially if you Google or read the information, and I might advise doing that before you do some of this. If you get stuck, you'll have to Google it yourself. I will have in the show notes the things I've done, the changes I've made in some of the examples, and it's just to give you an overview and also give you some ideas if you want to install Kubuntu. Also, this is a widget, the clock and the date. If you're adding a widget, of course the panels, you have to have this unlocked as it already is. And if I click on it, you can click add widgets, and I'll just give you a demo. So I'll add the analog clock as well. So if you click it, just drag it onto the desktop, let go, you've got the clock. Now the reason I chose now let me click here or close here to get rid of that. I chose the digital clock because I wanted a date, plus it's these days it's much easier to look at the clock and get an immediate response to immediate visual of what time it is. Here sometimes you have to discern what you're looking at, and it's just a question of aesthetics, what matters to you, but I like the utility or immediate functionality of how I have it laid out. So anyway, to get rid of this clock, you as long as your widgets are unlocked, you hit Control left button and hold it down. You have to hold that left button down for about 2 seconds to reveal these options here off to the right, this little panel here. And this allows you to shrink it down on see the little icon there. That allows you to rotate it, I guess 180, plus the analog clock settings, and then of course deleting it, removing it here. So I would just give you an idea that this is how you do whatever you want, and if you want to move it, you grab the panel, you can move it wherever you want, and I'm going to remove it. And that's how you add a widget, basically. Also, Kubuntu KDE has I think the default is double click. I prefer single click. I'm going to lock the widgets here. So right click on it, left click, lock widgets. Now none of this stuff, you can't move it. You just get your date when you click on there, but you can't move the panels or manipulate widgets. But I'm going to lose my train of thought. Oh, single digit. So you go into your menu, go into settings, and under devices, I believe, let me see, it might be mouse. Where is it? Input devices. I think it's input devices. Let's see. Yep, input devices. You have go under mouse, and here you have the ability to double click, single click. I prefer single click. I don't know why anyone wants to bother with double. It's just quicker to initiate where you want to go, what you want to do. And if you're that unsure about what you're doing, then maybe you better use the double click. Anyways, that's how you do that. Also, I don't have a touchpad, so of course this is why this is red, no touchpad found. Let me see, was there something else I was going to show you in here? Keyboard. Turn on. Now here's something that I'm not sure if it fully works, but the Numlock on startup, that means that your keyboard, the numeric lock keyboard light on the right corner of your keyboard, if it's not lit, then that means you have to click on Numlock to use those number keys there. And this allows you to keep it turned on upon startup. I'm not sure if this fully works effectively. I tried it and I could have sworn it was on sometimes and off at others. But this is where you would go into initiate Numlock on startup. So that would be under keyboard, under input devices. Power management, if you want to do some energy saving with your display, you can switch it off after so many minutes. You can suspend it after so many minutes. There's a million and one settings in here. You're going to have to read, look. I suggest doing one thing at a time. Maybe if you've got drivers you need to install, this is where you would install your drivers. It's going to collect information. I have there's no proprietary drivers for this particular desktop that I'm using. Printers, I believe it's a virtual printer setup, so it's pretty simple. You may have to click a few things to initiate it. You might even have to click add printer, but it should see your printer if it's plugged in. That's for printers. Let me see what else is important here. Going into themes, I prefer a dark theme. So this is engaged. What else? I'm using Breeze Dark there. Cursor, I switched it to Breeze Snow instead of the black. Splash screen, I guess when you go to dark, it can follow a theme. And maybe let me jump back here. You'll notice down at the bottom here, use desktop layout for theme. You can click on that if you're wanting to continue with the traditional theme. If you modify it, this will be unchecked, I believe. Under application styles, this is kind of important. If you want everything to look black, so there's not a mixture of black and white of your windows, you'll need to go into GNOME GTK and change this to Breeze Dark. Of course, the font, choose the size of the font depending on what you prefer for, how it visibly looks to you, the size of the font or the type of the font. But this is for GTK. Your other fonts would be under fonts. Here you can adjust all the fonts at one time, which I did, and I just left the default Noto Sans and just made them all size 11. And then you have to hit apply for every change, otherwise you won't have it initiated. Windows management, I don't think I did anything there. Account details, I disabled KDE Wallet. I don't use it. If you don't want it to question or ask you for anything, just disable it. Just uncheck that, click apply. What else can I show you here? I left the default icons. I left the colors the same, or when I set up the theme, it just automatically uses the dark. Did I do behavior? I left everything here. Let's see, the screen locking. I don't use screen locking, but you may want to, and this is where you would set up to lock your screen. So mine is unchecked for my use. Startup and shutdown. You can change the background other than the default background. Click here. You can add your own wallpaper for the login, which I did change. Auto start, I have plank enabled. Background services, I unchecked Bluetooth because I don't have Bluetooth on the computer. I unchecked SysGuard, I don't need that. I unchecked the keyboard daemon. Be careful with this. You have to kind of watch what you're unchecking here. I unchecked touchpad because I don't have a touchpad. it's just I'm trying to make this as fast and nimble as I can as an operating system. So a few tweaks in here and there are what helps to, it's a cumulative effect, I guess you could say, but it does help. And, you just want your computer to run as efficient as possible. So the more you tinker and tweak with it, the better it should operate, but also it helps you learn how to use and set up your computer. So this is my attempt at showing you this. Let me close that out. What else I want to show you? If you want to create shortcuts on the desktop, depending on how you have this laid out, I guess I could show you here. You click on the hamburger menu, configure desktop. Folder view is grayed out because of there's something. Is it here where I believe it's here where I have this show the desktop folder, and I believe that's why it's grayed out. If you change this, then you'll get different options for how things are laid out here. So I'm showing the desktop folder, and in doing that, let's see, tweaks. Just click and read and tinker with this, but what's neat is that there's a million and one options that once you see what they do, it really does make it your own. You can make it your own, and that's the end result, which is a reward in itself. Getting back to putting a shortcut on the desktop, okay, I'll just click on this is a shortcut already, but if I want to add another one, all you do is just it's just showing items in the in this folder, which resides. Well, I guess it is a desktop folder, and I've got various items in it. So if I click, drag, as you drag, you can move it here, copy it here, or link it here. So I suggest you link it so that you can manipulate this. You can add text to it if it's something important, and the original copy will be here. And this is just a link, so you can edit it, and the changes will obviously take effect with the original folder here. Now I'm going to delete it because I don't need it. So just delete, you're done with that. So that's how you would create a shortcut. And when you do create a shortcut, the text will be, there's a word for it. I can't think of the word, but it'll be slanted to the right. What else? I added, this is a widget for dictionary. I couldn't put the widget in blank, so I added it over here. If you click on it, obviously you have your dictionary. And this panel, I just had some odds and ends that I wanted to put here. I have also a trash can here. So I just have it in two locations. I added the GIMP here, my Dolphin folder. And then also application menu, you have an option between various menus. Let me see, unlock it. Does that give me the option? Yeah, when you unlock it, excuse me, I got a cough. Here you have alternatives. If you click on it, actually that's not it. I'm not quite sure that's not working the way I want. Well, maybe we'll come back to that. Panel options. Alternatives, there we go. For some reason it didn't come up. I don't know why. So I kind of like the application menu. You can do the launcher. I think it comes with the launcher or the dashboard. So if I click launcher, switch, now you end up with a different layout. So you can see it looks like this. And you can manipulate some of this if you want this type of launcher. I kind of want something a little more compact. So click alternatives, click application menu, switch, and now I've got it back the way I had it. I hope it didn't alter my settings. It did it reshuffled things in my favorites. So I can right click You can remove these. I want to get it back the way I had it, so right click, remove, remove. And this was, you can just drag things where you want it. And it was something like this. There's a duplicate on the other panel basically. So this favorite I believe if you change it here, it may do this. It may replicate what is here, but basically I just duplicated these start menus, and I have them on opposite ends of the desktop for accessibility. And then the only alteration between these two is that you can alter your power session buttons by right-clicking, I believe, right near one of the buttons. No, that's not. Let's try it right on the button. Right, no, that didn't do it. Let me try here. I forgot how I did it, but basically you can add or remove different power session buttons here to your liking. And I just Google it. It's not too hard to find out how to do it. And so this side is different than this side for various reasons. I think that's about all I wanted to show you. Let me lock this. It's a little tricky because it's right close to there we go, lock. So basically that's all I wanted to show you. Just there's 1,000,001 settings, but you can, it's very simple to make these changes once you've either played with this long enough or Google the information, but I've done it enough times now that it's not too difficult, and the end result is what you see here. So this works for me, and I hope it helps some of you out there in using Kubuntu. It's definitely gotten a lot better. I haven't noticed any bugs in terms of any weird quirks. No lockups, no issues with this version, and I've been very happy with it at this point. It's running quite smoothly. So anyway, keep using Linux, and thanks for watching.